Hey guys, it's Catherine with the Paleo Schmaleo Food Company. I wanted to talk today about flour alternatives. If you are cutting grains out of your diet and you really miss muffins, cookies, pizza dough, bread, I get it. This is the whole reason I struggle with my weight is carbs. So I wanted to share with you my experiences that I've had with flour alternatives. And there's four flour alternatives that you're going to use mostly. And I'll explain which ones are more expensive and least expensive and more useful and what they taste like. And I'll do this in a couple short minutes. So, one, I would say a staple. Okay, if you're starting and you're brand new to this grain-free cooking and you're looking for a root-based flour that's a great alternative that you use every day in your kitchen, I would say start with tapioca starch. Tapioca starch is extremely readily available. It's inexpensive. You're usually going to find it in a baking aisle, even at your local grocery store. I mean, I believe Kroger's carry it now. So you're going to find it. Sometimes you find it at Big Lots in that baking aisle. Bob's Red Mill makes a very popular, they're the most popular and they're everywhere. So if you find Bob's Red Mill's tapioca starch, grab it. That's what I use. And it's in place of cornstarch for me. So if you were going to put a tablespoon of cornstarch into your sauce to thicken it, you're going to want to use 2 tablespoons of tapioca. So again, it's just a 2-to-1 change, but it's much better for your gut and it's very inexpensive. So this is a really great way to switch that out. A second flour I highly recommend is coconut flour. Most people like coconut, but there are the few that really hate the taste of coconut, and this would be no good for them. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But I'll tell you, it is the least expensive of all of the flour alternatives, and it's everywhere. It's at stores you didn't think that you'd find it at, and you're going to find many different brands. So coconut flour is so great for like breading chicken. That's what I use it for the most. It does have a coconut taste, but you can add spices to it and then roll the chicken in it just like you would normally and fry it and do like a mock Chinese dinner. It's delicious. So if you don't like coconut, then a great alternative for that would be almond flour. Almond flour is probably the most expensive though, but it is the most versatile. It can be mixed with these other two starches and you can also bake with it. You can make doughs with it. You can make breads with it, especially if you have almond flour and coconut flour on hand, the two mixed together because the coconut flour is kind of a fine grain. It's a little finer, and almond flour, it's crushed nuts. So you're going to have like little granules, and the two mixed together really make a great consistency for your muffins and breads and doughs. Okay. So if you wanted a staple and you're not afraid to spend the money, buy almond flour. The last flour that I wanted to talk about today, and again, there's many more, but just these four, the last one would be arrowroot powder. Arrowroot powder is a great mixing agent. This is for the advanced paleo people. These are for the people that want to experiment with making breads and cakes and cookies and anything you used to have with wheat flour. If you wanted to get into more paleo baking, advanced baking for paleo diets, I would have arrowroot, coconut, almond flour, and tapioca starch on hand. Okay. But let's say you're starting out, go with tapioca starch. It's practical, it's cheap, thickens your sauces, it's in place of cornstarch, it's something you're used to. If you're moving up from that level, I would say go ahead and get some coconut flour, start frying a little bit with it, and experiment maybe with some breading alternatives. Okay, when you're going to bread chicken, I like to cut up chicken and dice it and put spices in it, roll it around, fry it in some coconut oil, and it's kind of like a mock fried chicken dinner. That's kind of how I do it. And then your advanced levels of paleo cooking, this is going to be an almond flour, which, gosh, I've spent up to almost $11 a bag. And it's probably one bag is probably going to make like 2 loaves of bread with the mixtures of the other flours. So this is why this is advanced cooking, okay? But if you're not going to use it all the time, you want to buy one bag, it's going to last you a long time. They make other nut flours. I highly recommend experimenting with the other nut flours. And if you have, I'd love to hear in the comments below what you thought. Cashew flour, walnut flour. You can buy those at some specialty stores. Have you tried it? I love to hear how you've used it. But going forward, if you're going to start small, start with coconut flour, and you can experiment with that. And then tapioca starch is the most readily available starch alternative that's very useful, doesn't have a lot of flavor. So it's kind of actually got a sweet flavor. So, but you're really not going to taste anything, I promise you. So please experiment with these starches. Get rid of the cornstarch and get tapioca starch in your house. Spend $4 a bag for it. Go to Big Lots, look in the baking aisle. You're going to find it really inexpensively. Tell me what you've been using. And in the meantime, I'm going to try to find a pizza dough recipe for you all that is cheaper than using all of these flours together. Most paleo recipes for pizza dough are using a combination of many flours, and I love to cut down how many flours are used in these recipes. The reason why is because it's not practical. It's really expensive to buy all of these flours, and I don't expect everyone to do it. And this is what turns people away from these diets, is because they can't afford the time or the money it takes to put in to all of this alternative ingredients. So I'm working on something. I think the closest I've gotten to a really great pizza dough recipe is an almond flour and a coconut flour combination. So, if you've come up with something great, I'd love to hear about it. Please, no cauliflower pizza, okay? It's so hard to get rid of the water of the cauliflower, and it's a bunch of cheese. You know what? It's great alternative. I'm glad you guys are eating cauliflower, but if you have to put a bunch of cheese in it to make it to work, this is not a solution for me. So I've tried it. I've experimented with cauliflower pizza. It's really not the best. It never really turns out for me. I've tried everything. I've even bought it pre-riced before, the cauliflower. It's just not working out. So what I'd really like to do is get a almond flour, coconut flour, or an arrowroot powder based dough for you. And I want to minimize how much alternative flours you're using so I can keep the cost down. I'm going to work on that. Please let me know if you've had success or even failures. I'd love to hear the failures. Please comment below if you've had grain-free, gluten-free alternative flour cooking go well or bad. Love to hear about it. Thanks, guys.